Thank you so much for joining this session all. And my name is Anke, and today I will present this workshop with you. So I work on community events at the Stellar Development Foundation, or SDF for short. Also, we have Justin Rice on the line here, VP of Ecosystem at SDF, who will help out with answering some questions if you may have at the end. So. Yeah, thank you, Justin, for making it to this session. It's great to have you here. And like SDF, this really quickly is a nonprofit organization founded in 2014 to support development and growth of the open source Stellar network, which is what we'll be talking about today. So let's quickly hop into the agenda. So first, we'll kind of talk a little bit about what is Stellar, and then just for those who are not quite aware yet of blockchain, I'll go briefly over some blockchain basics. Then I'll talk a little bit about how does Stellar work, the power of Stellar, and the challenges for DeFi summer, plus some interesting resources you can use during your building project. So afterwards, we'll have some questions. So let's dive into what is Stellar. Stellar is an open source network for currencies and payments. Stellar has no owner. If anything, it's owned by the public. So the software runs across a decentralized open network and handles millions of transactions each day. Like Bitcoin and Ethereum, Stellar relies on blockchain to keep the network in sync. But the end user experience is more like cash. Stellar is much faster, cheaper, and more energy efficient than typical blockchain-based systems. So Stellar makes it possible to create, send, and trade digital representations of all forms of money. Dollars, pesos, Bitcoin, pretty much anything. It's designed so that all the world's financial systems can work together on a single network. So let's take a closer look at how this works. Next slide. Yeah. So, before we do that, Stellar is not in and of itself a consumer-facing technology. Instead, it's used by businesses, which can then offer their users a fast, efficient network for trading, saving, and spending digital money. So their users, wherever they are in the world, can submit transactions to send and exchange all kinds of assets on the network, which deliver in seconds and for a low cost, as Stellar is free to use. So for builders, it's really an open financial infrastructure. Anyone can access it. There is no permission or application needed. Now, before I dive into how Stellar actually works, let me briefly explain what blockchain is on a high level for those who don't know yet. So in essence, blockchain is a public timestamped series of immutable records of data, synchronized across multiple independent stakeholders. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Stellar are well-known blockchain networks, and to decide which one to use depends on what you want to use it for. So Bitcoin was intended to be more of a digital gold and only issues Bitcoin, so it doesn't work with the existing financial infrastructure. Ethereum is good for decentralized applications, but the technology does not scale well, so it's not very suitable for companies who send and receive a large volume of transactions. Stellar is best for cross-border and cross-currency payments and asset issuance because the technology is faster, more affordable, and scalable. So really the key to decentralized ledger technology is achieving consensus across this network of independent stakeholders to validate these transactions. The way to do this differs across the different blockchain networks. And I'm not going into too deep of this today, but I do encourage you to look a little bit more into this on your own time. So to summarize, Bitcoin and Ethereum currently use proof of work to achieve consensus, a protocol where anonymous entities or individuals compete with each other to finish complex computations, which requires a lot of computing power to receive a bit of Bitcoin with Bitcoin, for example, as a reward. So this is called mining. Stellar actually uses a FBA, Federated Byzantine Agreement, and implements it as the Stellar Consensus Protocol, or SCP for short. Here, each known entity, which is usually a company built on Stellar that needs great network access or wants to strengthen the network, chooses which other entities to listen to when it comes to validating transactions. Of course, this is a little bit of a complicated process. So if you're more interested, I do recommend looking into it more on your own time. So, this process of mining has consequences in, for example, latency by adding several confirmation times, transaction costs, and in energy consumption. So as Stellar doesn't rely on mining, it can work super fast and is affordable, and Stellar nodes consume much less energy while keeping everything secure. So speaking of these nodes, what are they? So nodes are computers that connect and communicate with one another to keep a common accounting ledger and to approve and ratify changes to it. On the image on the right, all of these dots are nodes. Stellar is open participation, which means that anyone can spin up one of these nodes, and decentralized, because these nodes are run by independent individuals and organizations all over the globe. So the common ledger that I talked about that nodes work together on is stable, secure, and transparent. Stable because the network is spread over servers and computers all over the world. It doesn't rely on a central server, so it can be turned off. Secure because ledger entries are immutable. Once a transaction has been processed, no one can change the numbers or manipulate the data to their liking. And transparent because everyone can see at the ledger and trust that the information on there is correct. So all entries on the ledger are called transactions. So, transactions on Stellar are made up of operations, which I'll show you a bit more about later. These are functions that change the ledger. A payment, for example, is an operation. So the Stellar vernacular is a bit confusing because operations, that's what most people think of when they think of transactions. But on Stellar, you can actually bundle up to 100 operations in a single transaction. And that allows you to do some pretty interesting things that we won't get into right now. Because most transactions consist of a single operation. Each of these entries you see here in this example ledger is a single operation transaction. And transactions are timestamped and contain unique identifying information. Every 3 to 5 seconds, the nodes we talked about earlier bundle transactions together into a set and apply that set to change the state of the ledger. So let's quickly walk through that process. It starts with a ledger, which is essentially a list of accounts and balances. So users, wherever they are in the world, submit transactions to send and exchange assets on the network. These users can be individuals with Stellar wallets or businesses making B2B payments. They can then move the funds anywhere in the world and convert currencies along the way, thanks to the built-in order books, which we'll go over in a minute. And these transactions are then bundled into sets, confirmed by validating nodes, and applied to the ledger, at which point they're final and create an immutable record. And then the whole process starts over. So every entry like this, every transaction that persists on the ledger is tied to a particular account. Accounts on Stellar are the central data structure and are saved on the global ledger. Accounts hold balances, they sign transactions, and they also issue assets. So account access is controlled by public or private key cryptography. Every Stellar account has a public key, which always starts with a G, and a secret key, which always starts with an S. So the public key is safe to share. Other people need it to identify your account and verify that you authorized a transaction. Kind of like how people need your email address in order to send you emails. But your secret key, however, is private information that proves that you own your account. It's like a password to your email account, for example. So, you need to make an account in order to make transactions on the network. Also, to easily create an account on Stellar, SDF offers a handy tool called the Stellar Laboratory, where you can create a ledger and build, sign, and submit transactions on the network. Let me show you the laboratory. The laboratory is a set of tools that enables people to try out and learn about the Stellar network. So the laboratory can sign transactions of build transactions, sign them, and submit them to the network. It can also make requests to any of the Horizon endpoints, which is the Stellar REST API. So aside from the public network, like this is the public network you have here. So this is the actual network on Stellar that is live today. The SDF also created a small test network, which will also what you'll be using to build your projects on. So this test network, it's free to use, functions just like the main network, and is the best place to start developing on Stellar since it doesn't connect to any real money. So I'll just explain a little bit before we dive into some examples. If we take a look at the build transaction here, you can see there are two types of transactions, a transaction and a fee bump. Fee bumps enable like an account to pay for an existing transaction, which are useful for covering, for example, user fees. So today, for simplicity, we'll focus on transactions. The source account originates the transaction and also provides the fee and sequence number. And that leads us to the next, the sequence number. So the sequence number tracks the order of incoming transactions. And when submitting a single transaction, you should always submit a sequence number greater than one greater than the current sequence number. Yeah, there's also a per operation base fee on Stellar that's currently 100 strups, which is a fraction of a cent. They're very small for users, but big enough to deter any bad actors from spamming the network. And there's also memo and time bounds, but just for simplicity, we're not going to use these today. Feel free to look up in our documents though. So this is a transaction, and as you see, we can go like sign the transaction. You see this XDR format. Don't be afraid. XDR is also known as external data representation and is used throughout the Stellar network and protocol. You can read more about it in our docs as well. So perfect. Now we've kind of went through what the Stellar laboratory looks like. Let's try to create an account, the accounts which I just talked about. So you can generate a valid Stellar key using a Stellar SDK or the Stellar laboratory, but an account only exists on Stellar on the ledger once it has required a minimum required balance of 1 lumen. So on the testnet, as you can see here, we're on the testnet. You can use a tool called FriendBot to do that for you. So I generated a key here, and I can fund this account using the FriendBot tool. So get test network lumens. They're not actual lumens, so it's fine to see my secret key. No problem. So now I've successfully founded this, and this key pair is now an account. So this is also good to, like, if you're doing these transactions yourself using the Stellar network, it's always good to, for any of these transactions, these test transactions, to kind of copy your key pairs down, so you always have them handy. But now this is our funded key pair. All right, so we can move on with our Stellar laboratory. So so the test network is really easy to do this with FriendBot, but on the mainnet, you have to actually create a new account from an existing account using an operation called create account, which funds the new account with a specified starting balance. So let's also show you how this works using a build transaction. So with our source account, let's go back to this. We will copy this public key that we just funded and place it into the source account. Then we'll fetch the next sequence number, and we use the operation type called create account. And now we actually, I can just generate real quick a new key pair that we haven't funded yet, which I'm also going to copy in here. And I'm calling this my unfunded key pair. So this key pair actually generated, but that doesn't actually exist on the ledger yet. So we're going to make this key pair appear into an account. Perfect. So now The destination will be that account that I just copied. Let's give it a starting balance of 8,000. All right. Then we sign this in the transaction sender of a transaction signer. We add the signature of the source account, which is right here. So I'm just going to copy this. Yes. Perfect. And then we can sign and submit. It takes 3 to 5 seconds to make this submit to the network, and the transaction is submitted. So now this account that was previously unfunded, I just funded it in a few seconds, in a few clicks. So now this is also a funded key pair. All right, let's get back to my presentation. So, you know, you must have noticed that there are a number of other operations on the laboratory, and which leads into the next question. Like, what can you actually do with Stellar? So on Stellar, you can also issue your own assets. So Stellar allows anyone to create a redeemable, tradable representation of any asset, often called tokens, in a few simple lines of code. So token issuance is actually the backbone of the Stellar network. Someone is not muted. Can you mute yourself? Yeah, perfect. All right, so that was a little interference there. So token issuance is actually the backbone of the Stellar network. It's how Stellar connects the world's currencies, and it's what Stellar was built for. So you can issue a token that represents anything from corn bushels to gold, so even an hour of your time as a tutor, for example. So new assets are created through the payment operation, actually. So an issuing account makes a payment using an asset it's issuing, and that payment actually creates the asset on the network. So though before, you know, an asset can actually hold an asset that another account issues, it has to establish something called a trust line. So a trust line is an explicit opt-in to hold a particular token and specifies both asset and code and issuer. So to establish a trust line, the receiving account must submit a change trust operation. So let me show you how that works. All right, so this is my previous one. So now I'm gonna build another transaction. And so I'm gonna fetch the next sequence number. It's very important every time you do this. Instead of a create account, I'm going to change trust. So I'm going to, I'm going to make a new asset. So let's call it, I guess we can call it DeFi. Let's call it DeFi. And also, like, trust lines can like also track liabilities and limit the amount of an asset an account can hold, as you can see here with limits. But more often than not, account holders don't set that limit. They simply turn the trust line on, which sets, which by default allows the maximum. So issuer account ID. Well, let's say that the other account I have created just now is the issuer. So I'm going to copy that. All right. Perfect. And then I'm going to sign it. Perfect. And the right signature is already in. So now I can submit this. I'll submit it to the network. Ah, perfect. Just in a second. You see how quick that was? All right. So now we established the trust line. And so to now we've created the trust line, it's time to use the payment operation to actually create the asset on the ledger. So let's try that out real quick. So build transaction. So I'm going to actually use, so the issuing account has all of the lumens now of all of the, I guess, the DeFi assets. So we have to use the source account of the issuing account. I'm just going to put here for reference, issuing account. All right, then we know. So instead of the other account, right now I'll use this one, and you have to fetch the next sequence number for every one. I'm going to use the payment. Destination, I will use this one. It's public key. I'll just use these two public keys for now. All right. So I will use DeFi asset, which is issued by this account. All right, amount, how much asset do we want to send? Guess we can send 5,000 for the fun of it. By the way, the DeFi asset right now isn't really worth anything, I think. But since there are no buy and sell orders yet, oh, it's a different one. So because we use this one as a source account, we also have to use the correct secret key. So I'll try that out. All right, signed. Now we submit it. See if it works. All right, successfully, we have created a DeFi asset. Let's look it up here. This is, I think this is the testnet. Let's see if we have it. Yeah, we can see here. Oh, see, here's my asset DeFi. Just now I made it. So this is actually a ledger explorer on Stellar. And you can see my DeFi asset. So you can also see some of the transaction this has made. So it's kind of super interesting to see how this all works. But this is what I just created. All right, we just created an asset. But so just like, Stellar also makes it possible to represent the world's currencies in the form of digital fiat tokens. On a decentralized ledger where they can all interoperate freely. So examples of these fiat tokens could be CBDCs or central bank digital currencies, which are explored by governments and central banks around the world, and stable coins such as USDC, a digital dollar backed one-to-one by fully reserved assets. So just so you know, just like we made a message just now, there are also companies out there that issue assets that represent currencies like fiat currencies, and also like stocks and like a lot of other things. So these tokens are backed by regulated financial institutions, money service businesses, and fintech in companies that we call anchors. So important alert, anchors. Know this term. So let me see. Anchors connect the existing financial system with Stellar by serving as the on and off ramps of the network. So they bridge Stellar to a local banking system and handle regulatory compliance by doing things like collecting KYC, know your customer information, so that users can actually make withdrawals and deposits. Essentially, a user obtains a Stellar network asset by depositing traditional currency with an anchor using traditional rails, like a bank deposit via ACH, for example. They can then hold that asset in a Stellar wallet or app or any kind of other thing, use it to make payments or trade it for other assets on the network. Anchors maintain fiat reserves equivalent to the value of issued tokens, so users can redeem them back to fiat at any time. When people hold the tokens, they can treat them just like traditional money because they know that in the end, they're redeemable for traditional money in the end. I repeated that twice, sorry. So there are anchor services like currently operating like all over the world, each of which provides a real world access point to the Stellar network. And there are more being built as we speak. So in the future, imagine this map with anchors everywhere. Stellar powers each of these entities as they address the prevalent needs in their regional markets. And together, these entities from all over the world make up an ecosystem that collectively creates equitable access to the global financial system. Now, you may be thinking, look, I'm not a regulated financial institution. What can I do with Stellar? So, and the beauty of it is that you don't have to issue an asset to build on Stellar. So you can build an app that offers users access to the assets other organizations issue. You can take advantage of a suite of SD APIs and use Stellar as a backend that allows users to store, trade, and transfer value. And you can even leverage existing and compliant access point to offer in-app connections to real-world currencies. So your users can get on and off the network easily. So in other words, your app can interoperate with Anchor services, and it's pretty powerful if you're a startup, a student, or just an indie developer with a great idea. Also, you can trade any tokens like these on the network peer-to-peer. Every token on Stellar is exchangeable with any other token on the network, and the Stellar protocol itself connects buyers and sellers. So trades between assets are possible because Stellar has a common built-in order books called the Decentralized exchange. So this means that the base Stellar protocol not only tracks balances, but also tracks and settles trades between balances in a decentralized, ownerless way. So let me see, I think you can see what this looks like. For example, this is a market existing on Stellar, also on Stellar Export. You can see in buy orders and sell orders and order books. So this is all live from the network. So it's really interesting. You know everything on Stellar. You can kind of look up using this Ledger Explorer. So definitely recommend to do so. So now you have an idea of what that looks like. We can use the buy and sell order functionality through operations mentioned on my slide. So you can play buy orders, sell orders on the DEX via a simple operation, and every 3 to 5 seconds, compatible trades will automatically resolve without the use of intermediaries. So, let's try this out using the Stellar laboratory and place a sell order. So, build transaction. So I can actually use a sell order, and I will use today the issuing account. That is this one. So IY56, I think I have the right one here. Yeah. So I will fetch the next sequence number, and instead of payment, I will do a manage sell offer. I will sell, let's say I will sell DeFi asset, and it's my own asset, so I can do this one. Let's say I'm buying native, and let's say the amount I'm selling is 500, and let's say it's 1-to-1. Right. So now, I think I have to. Let me see, transactions, offer ID. 0. Okay. Sign. Is the right one? All right. Submit. All right. Perfect. We just submitted a sell order. That was easy. So, the DEX, like the decentralized exchange, facilitates a universal currency conversion. And this is not only great for traders. It is also a powerful tool for international cross-border and cross-currency payments called path payments. So essentially, you can send and exchange money using a single atomic transaction. A path payment, kind of an interesting word, but it's actually like it's a payment where an account can send one asset and have the recipient receive another through a path of offers. That's why the path and path payment. So, since the asset sent, for example, US dollar, can be different from the asset received, for example, a euro, path payments allow for simultaneous transfer and conversion of currencies. So there are two operations here for path payments. A path payment strict send allows the user to specify the amount of the asset to send, and a amount received will vary based on offers on the order books. So if you would like to instead specify the amount received, you can use the payment strict receive operation. So like all the features I just explained and more allow you to build, on this more connected and interoperable world that creates equitable access to the global financial system. Large enterprise companies and companies as small as single dev startups have chosen Stellar to move money and access new markets. And you can too. So for this hackathon, we are sponsoring $3,000 worth of Lumens XLM, which is Stellar's native asset in prices. And for the 3 best projects built on Stellar that solve a real-world problem and impact people's everyday lives. So to give you a few examples, I'll quickly show you a few companies that are building on Stellar today. Uhuru Wallet is a WhatsApp wallet based on Stellar and allows for sending intra-African payments. Users can easily send payments to each other using their issued ZAR asset, South African rand, and even pay for utility and phone bills. They're currently active in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria, and are looking to expand to other countries. So this is a really exciting project. They've used WhatsApp, which takes up very little space on their users' phones. Another really interesting project is Leaf Global FinTech, which is designed for refugees, cross-border traders, and financially marginalized, and has been live since September 2020 in Rwanda, Uganda, and Kenya. Most of their users currently are refugees and who don't have a bank account. So these people no longer need to carry cash, which can be dangerous, especially when crossing borders. Instead, they can keep their money securely in the Leaf wallet. Users can save their money in multiple currencies and enjoy free leaf-to-leaf wallet transfers and pay for goods and services. Next step, Vibrant. So with an average annual inflation of 24% in the last 20 years, the depreciation of the Argentine peso is the most relevant issue among Argentines. So Vibrant is actually an app that gives these people in Argentina inflation-beating tools by providing the ability to convert their savings into USDC, which I talked about earlier, and is backed one-to-one with the US dollar. So with Vibrant, they can protect their value of their salary from devaluation and safeguard long-term value and have goals for the future. Last but not least, DStock. DStock is a fintech company that uses buy and sell orders on the Stellar network and allows and uses the Stellar DEX to allow users to obtain stocks. So its goal is actually to make investing accessible and affordable for people in emerging markets like Vietnam and South Africa through a borderless digital interface for security tokens built on the Stellar network. While we're nearing the end of my presentation, and we understand, building a project on a technology you don't know yet can feel like a lot. So don't worry, you don't have to start from scratch. You can use various resources and get building today. Ship a product, grow your user base, iterate, improve, continue your user base. And all you need is a little bit of algo grease, ingenuity, and the ability to write some basic code. So to help you with this, I've collected these on a document that I've pinned in actually the Discord channel, which contains all the information you need to get started on Stellar. So this is the link. I can quickly show it. All right, perfect. So this is the document, and I do really encourage you to check this out. It contains the schedule, like this, the challenges. We also have written down some submission requirements on here. It's today's workshop, and there's also another workshop, and one of these is actually the Stellar Quest, which is an interactive and gamified way to learn more about Stellar. If I can click on it. So they offer practice challenges. This is actually an app. They offer practice challenges where you can learn Stellar, win awesome badges, and learn how to kind of develop on Stellar at the same time. During live challenges, you also have the chance to win Lumen Awards, so be sure to check this out. Also, I recommend to attend our second workshop on Tuesday at 12 p.m. EDT to learn how to start developing on Stellar. Join SDF's ecosystem evangelist Tyler Vanderhoeven as he walks through the Stellar SDKs and Horizon instance, and builds a simple app that uses delegated signing methods. And we'll also share some interesting tips and tricks that make it easy to build award-winning projects on Stellar. So in the meantime, visit the guide I showed you earlier, and also learn more on stellar.org. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? And you can always ask us for help. So just join the Stellar channel in the DeFi summer Discord. Connect also. We also have another Discord link called Stellar Global. You can connect to kind of the broader Stellar community. It's really exciting. Can discuss anything Stellar related with the other like-minded individuals all over the world. It's actually run by the community. It's not run by us, and it's very vibrant. So definitely, I think I put a link in the document that I put in Discord as well. So definitely have a look. And also, like in the Stellar channel, feel free to just reach out if you have any questions. So, and I hope to see you all on the next workshop for the how to get started developing on Stellar with Tyler. So tune in then. Thank you.